Welcome to our first skills webinar of 2025. Clive, while I do some admin stuff, would you like to say hi to everyone and introduce Belinda for us today?
Yes, indeed. And it's really handy that we have people turning up because these skills webinars are precisely what many people in business want and need. And we like to provide them simply because people want and need them, and we want to see people grow. So today we're looking at Google Ads and what they are, how they work, and how to calculate whether or not it's worthwhile for you. So to that end, we want to introduce Belinda of
Bell
just
Digital.
off my screen for a moment.
That's all good. Just remember my
Yeah,
name
we're
and the fact that I do
closing this.
Google Ads.
So, Belinda, introduce yourself and say hello.
There you go. There you go. So yes, I'm Belle and I do Google Ads exclusively. So in the past, I did a pile of other things, specialized and narrowed it right down to Google Ads and specifically Google Ads for service-based businesses. So today we're going to run through, because I can't tell you the amount of businesses that come to me and go, so I want to do Google Ads. And I'm like, we need to take one very large step backwards and just figure out mathematically whether or not you should be in fact doing Google Ads and whether it's going to be profitable for you, because there is no point being a charity to Google. That's at least what I call it. So we're going to tell you a couple of little stories today, because I have some examples that will highlight the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to the Google Ads. This is an exercise that I run through with every single person that comes to me. I made.
Oh, we lose you there?
Of course, no, they'll fix that up. Made the mistake once, and you'll only do it once, where I didn't use this calculator that I'm about to show you with a client. And I made an assumption that because she had Google Ads, that in fact she should have Google Ads. And she had a separate issue related to someone bidding on her brand. And we ran through it for an hour. We get to the end of it all and I hung up and I'm like, hang on a minute. If it's costing you $20 to get a sale, and this was e-com, this was a long while ago.
Yeah.
If it's costing you $20 to get a sale and your average deal is worth $80, how much profit's in there for you? And I had to ring her back and say, listen, you shouldn't be running Google Ads because you're being a charity to Google and you're handing over every bit of your profit to Google. So I'm like, turn everything off and just leave your brand stuff, because we know you've got someone who's bidding on your brand name. For those of you who are completely new to Google Ads, just to really touch on that really quickly, it is not.
We might just hold back for just a few seconds because it's only 2 minutes past 12.
Yeah, people are coming in.
Let's give people a few minutes to jump in before we dive deeply into the presentation. I'd like to say hi to everyone who's joined us. We've had a few new people join us since we kicked off the webinar today. We are being joined by Belle or Belinda from Bell Digital, focusing on the world of Google Ads. She was just sharing a story actually, and I've just done the same thing. I have an organic client we've just taken on whose e-com cost per lead was $30 on a $70 sale. And I was like, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah.
Throughout that process. So it's a really handy one to be here and involved today. And as Belinda says to you, she's fully niched in the world of Google Ads. I don't do ads. That's nothing I do. I look at the reports and I go, yeah, that's maybe working with our organic stuff or it's not. If you've not met me before, I'm Linda Reed-Enever. I'm an impact and marketing strategist. Clyde, would you like to introduce yourself? Well, because we have new people on screen, you need to unmute. You need to unmute.
I'm used to running these things, therefore I get to have it open all the time. Now, my name is Clive Enever. I'm a business strategist and I help people ensure they have a clear roadmap to success. And we are absolutely delighted to have Belle here because spending money is something that frightens a lot of people in business, but if you spend it wisely, you can get seriously good returns. So I think, welcome, Belle.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. Okay, we've given everyone a few more minutes to find the link from Zoom and find the link from Eventbrite and attend the Zoom. So I'm going to hand it over to Belle now. We're going to let her share her experts and insights If you are joining us, please make sure your microphones are muted. You can ask Q&A throughout the process. You can have a chat with us. And because we're all here on networking, pop your business details in the link, so in the chat, so that we can all find you as we go through today's presentation. I'm going to mute now, and let's look at this amazing world of Google Ads and what we can do with it.
There we go. All right. So I'm going to go through today a couple of little stories. They are real. They have been de-identified because businesses frequently come to me and say, I want to do Google Ads. And for those of you who didn't hear at the beginning, that we need to take a very large step backwards and say, should you be doing Google Ads? Because Google Ads is not viable for everybody. If you've been around a long time, you might remember getting clicks for 20 or 50 cents. Generally speaking, that is not a thing anymore. If you're a lawyer, then saddle up for $30 to $100 clicks. If you're a tradie, you're probably in the $20 to $30 click range. Most industries, if you ask me, I'll be able to have a bit of a guess. I just looked at a massage therapist day spa in Melbourne literally an hour ago, and we're sort of sitting around $3 to $4 clicks there. I will say that I focus on service-based businesses, so you can get cheaper clicks when it comes to e-commerce. That is not something we're going to focus on today. So the goal of today is to show you that if, whether it be me or somebody else, it doesn't really matter, but if an agency is not calculating these figures on your way in and they're just saying, yeah, we can do Google Ads for you, then that should be your first really big red flag, because I have zero interest in taking money. It's only going to be stressful for the client and for myself, and they're going to get cranky pants with me. So I go through this maths that I'm about to show you with every single person on the way in. So I'm just sharing my screen, and this is what I call my budget calculator. We're going to talk about a financial planner. So this is, like I said, a real story. It's been de-identified. I have a lot of referral partners who send me work, and my friend Kelly sent me this particular gentleman, and she said, he's got a contract. You're probably not going to get the work, but can you talk him off the cliff? And I'm like, yes, I can, because his biggest complaint was that he was getting no conversions. I said, so we go through, and his ad spend was $1,500. We worked out, because we had a real life account, we could have a look at it. His cost per click was $20. We know I've changed this slightly for today. His website was not converting at 5%, but we know, kind of roughly speaking, the websites convert at 5%. This is at the point where I tell potential customers that we're going to revisit this in 3 months with some real data. So we're putting in estimates based on industry standards and my experience, and then we're going to follow it up to see what a website actually converts at. Financial planning can be often lower than that because it's very, very competitive. So we were able to highlight by going through this and adding in the figures. I said to him, right, for every 10 leads that you get, however that be, whether it be on the phone or via a contact form, how many do you convert? And he was like 10%. Massively competitive industry, big dollars involved. That's why I've highlighted it in red as being his single largest problem. And there's sometimes nothing you can do about it. It just is what it is. And I said to him, well, with your ad spend of $1,500, it's any wonder that you're not actually getting any clients, because your ad spend is not enough to generate an actual sale each month. And then I said to him, respectfully, unless your ad spend gets up around the $5,000 mark, I can't help you. Now, this is not the case for all businesses. If you're a small business sitting out there and you're wondering about Google Ads for yourself, your cost per click is probably not going to be $20. I don't want to suggest for 1 second that you need to spend $5,000 in order to work with a Google Ads person. This is very, very specific to financial planning. They are a hugely competitive industry, and they've all jumped on the bandwagon of doing Google Ads, and it's driven the price up. So you can't have a set or locked in idea of what your ad spend is going to be. You need to be guided by what the prices are in the industry and what the conversion rates are going to do for you. It made sense to him then that he needed to spend $5,000 a month in order to generate 1 lead, or work on improving, kind of making this up now by way of an example, improve your conversion rate to 50%. All of a sudden, you can then have a much, much lower So yeah, you could spend $1,000 a month and then land a client. By knowing these figures, we can start to see what areas we need to improve on. If you've been in business 20 years and you only ever convert 10% because that's just the way it is, then this is unrealistic to assume that you're going to ever achieve it. We need to leave it the way it is. Let me go back to the 5. All right, so then we look at the maths down here. These 3 metrics, what your conversion rate is, what your average deal size is, and I'll speak to that in a minute, and your margin. It says product margin. This calculator is designed to cater for all sorts of businesses, so it has some generic terms in there. They're the 3 figures that you need to know. I am blown away by the number of businesses that don't know those figures, particularly margin, like profit margin. How much profit, what's your percentage of profit that you make in your business? And the amount of people who say to me, I don't know, is a little bit terrifying. And I know that accounting is challenging and all of that, but even if you don't know how to calculate it for yourself, then your accounts person or your accountant should be able to help you out. All right, so in his case, when he did land a client, it was very, very profitable for him, or it was and that was I think the price per year from memory, because this was a while ago now. His profit margin was 35%. What I usually find is if you're like a lot of us sitting in a 3x3 room and you don't have a huge amount of staff and you don't have an office that you're paying for and there's not heavy equipment and all of that sort of stuff, then your profit margin stands to be like 80%, not including your wages, profit or super that you're pulling out. I tend to separate that so I can just see my overall profit. If you've got humans involved, particularly Australian humans, like a physiotherapist or counselling services, and these are some of the ones I'm familiar with, then your margin's going to be between 10 and 20% in my experience. Thankfully, this gentleman knew his, and it showed that he has a profit of nearly $6,000. That's off 1 year of financial planning. Because of the maths, it's going to cost him $4,000 to get a client. But now that we've got this information, we can make informed decisions about where, like, that's a huge amount of money. But if these people stay for 2 years and we double that, then all of a sudden we can see what it does to our ROI. It's the 200% return on your investment. It's about having these figures, making them really clear by laying them out in a spreadsheet, and then making an informed decision about whether or not it makes sense for your business. Most businesses would have an absolute coronary if you said to them, I'm going to charge you $4,000 to land a client. Some businesses go, it's okay, my lifetime value is $50K. I'm happy to spend less than 10% to get the client. But it's about making that as an informed decision. All right, so the second one I have is a hairdresser. Now, most of these figures are real, again, de-identified. And we went through, and I think this one we actually updated the figures after a few months, which is why you'll see some random figures like $4.67 as an average cost per click. This to show you a smaller ad spend. We set it at $1,000. This client had $1,000 a month to spend. Website converted at 5%. Average cost per click in the area was $4.67. I will say too that the average cost per click, like if you ring someone and say, well, what's the average cost per click in for hairdressing? I can't answer that question without physically knowing where you are, because it does vary. I've seen mowing cost per clicks in Queensland be $3 to $8. I've seen them be $8 to $13 in Adelaide. So it does vary depending on how many competitors are in the area, how many people are searching in the area. It varies based on a pile of things. So we need to know where you are and how far you stretch. The other thing that can drive the price up, particularly with local businesses like hairdressers, is that people are not prepared to travel 50Ks to get their hair cut. Depending on whether or not you offer a specialised service, they will travel further. like I had a hairdresser who was a blonde specialist, and people will travel further for that than they will for, you know, my husband's driving 3 minutes down the road for his haircut because he's not going any further. So that factors in. So in this case, the cost per click was $4.67. Website converted at 5%. They could reasonably expect 10 to 11 conversions in the month. And if I was talking to a prospective client, I would say at this point, this is not a promise. This is based on the keyword planner in Google Ads. It's often understated, and we haven't done this in real life. The rest of the information in this calculator is provided by the business. So it is an academic exercise in estimating the viability. It is definitely not a promise of the results that can be expected. It is also about setting expectations, because I say to clients, I have an onboarding questionnaire that I said to them, it's going to repeat a pile of things that we've already talked about. It's designed to, not as a formal test, but as a bit of an exercise to see whether or not you understand. Because in that questionnaire, I say to people, how many leads are you chasing per month? And how many do you expect to come from Google Ads? And I am blown away by having this conversation right at this point. And then they come back in their questionnaire and they're like, oh, I want 50 leads per month and I need 40 of them to come from Google Ads. So if that happens, and it happens at least 50 to 70% of the time, and it is just a lack of knowledge in this area, I say to people, there's no dumb questions. You do really well at what you do. I could never cut someone's hair. I would give them a call and just say, listen, if you really need that many leads, then you're going to have to be prepared to increase this ad spend. Because I'll work really damn hard for you and I'll try and get your cost per lead as minimal as possible, but I don't own Google and I can't get you clicks for 50 cents. So just about setting expectations at that point. This particular hairdresser, I said to him, right, what's your conversion rate? How many, if 10 people ring you, how many are making appointments? And he goes, if I answer the phone 90%, if my junior answers the phone like 60%. I said to him, well, if you do anything else, please attach that phone to your hip and you be the one that answers the phone, and or train your staff to be as good as
the junior.
What's that?
Train the junior.
Yeah, this is it. Train the junior. The junior's got to improve. But until you can train the junior, get them to clean up the hair on the floor and you answer the phone. Because it can make 30% a difference when it comes to the overall results in terms of new clients. So for the purposes of today, we've set it at 70%. It's showing that we're going to get between 7 and 8 new clients a month. Now, you might look at this next figure and go, holy dooly, how did she get $5,500 for a hairdresser? Because depending on where you are and what you have done, I generally don't advertise for haircuts. My husband is not my target market when it comes to hairdressers. Because he's paying $20 down at some place that he sits in a queue and waits, can't even make an appointment.
I'm your target market.
Yeah, I am your target market. And I won't even tell you how much I'm paying because my husband's still at home. Mine's actually quite modest in the grand scheme of things. Newstead's just down the road, and in Newstead you'd probably pay $400 to $500, or at least $300 to $500. This guy was charging in the zone of $500 a client. Now, if you do the maths, and because Linda and I can do it standing on her head, because because it comes out of my bank account every 8 weeks, if not more often, because she's got short hair.
Clive, do not listen.
Yeah, Clive, shut your ears. So if you go 8 weeks by $300 we said an average of 3 years, someone will stay. Now you're going to get people who are lifers, me and Linda, who go nowhere else. And you're going to get the people, Sally, who rocks up and goes, oh, I don't really like this hairdresser. And the people who leave town. So we said on average, people stay for 3 years. If you do that maths, you land at $5,500 for the lifetime. So this particular hairdresser said, when I said to him, are you willing to pay $130 to $150 to get a new client? He's like, oh, that's so expensive. I'm not paying that much. That's ridiculous. And then I talked to him about lifetime value and proved to him that his particularly ladies mostly, were worth $5,500. I'm like, you're happy to pay $150 to get them now? Oh, yeah, that makes sense now. So it's about educating. Some clients are very aware of this. I have a mowing guide. Don't be offended that I'm comparing hairdressers to mowers. They have things grow and then they cut them. They're all the same. He totally like his lifetime value is $2,800. He knows, but his business is only 5 years old and it's growing. So he fully understands that maths. Here is an example of a business that, as we know, hairdressers are high labor. So the margin was 10%. He's making $550 profit out of that client. It's costing him $130 to get them. He still has $417 left over in terms of net profit, and his ROI in this case is 300%.
Guys, if anyone's wanting to know about the numbers in business, I know Clive's quietly popped it in there, and you're wanting to know about margin, and we're mentioning figures and stuff that I know for lots of business owners can be really, really confronting. And we maybe haven't got to that part of our business right now, but everyone's saying we should do ads and everyone's saying we should do this and that sort of stuff. There is a podcast, Clive, correct, that you've popped into chat? Unmute yourself, please. I mentioned you.
Yes, it's a podcast. And you can have a good listen, and hopefully I'll tell you the right numbers and how you can find them.
Yeah, and just how you can find those numbers. And please, we see businesses on a regular basis that do not know the answers to these questions, but empower yourself with it.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but I highly recommend it. In Xero, there is a category section. So I often, I talk to all my colleagues about this fairly frequently. It is reasonably depressing, depending on how your business is set up, that like if I go and look at mine, I'm making a profit, but it doesn't look healthy at all if I just look at a standard profit and loss sitting in Xero, because legitimately I have a 4-wheel drive in there that is totally acceptable to me to have in there, but is it needed on a day-to-day basis for me to run my business? Probably not as much as I would think. So I've created 2 lots of categories so that all expenses are categorized into Bell Digital and Bell Other. And then I've got an advanced or customized profit and loss statement that is set up so that I can see what little old Bell's doing separate to everything that goes into my Xero, and then it's far less depressing. So talk to Linda and Clive about that. If you go, like I had a friend ring me the other day and she was like, oh, Bella, I only made $12,000. I'm like, yeah, but you paid yourself and you paid your tax and you paid your super and you've got a car and you've got this and you can include that. She's like, oh yeah. Turned out that she was actually making 150 grand a year. It was just that the maths didn't show that quite as clearly as what we needed it to.
If you want to talk numbers, talk to Clive. If you want to talk marketing and creative stuff, talk to me. So Clive, put your booking calendar in so everyone who wants to talk numbers can talk to you.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really important because and that's, for me, that report was a game changer, because I'm sitting there how it came about for me is that I actually lived in Fiji for about 8 years and quite legitimately had island-based clients, and with actual permission in writing was able to include our boat as part of our business. That meant that my profit was well down and it looked like I didn't make that much money. When you take the boat out and you look at everything else, all of a sudden things are a hell of a lot more healthy. So,
fantastic. Clive, do you want to put your booking calendar in? They're really good points, guys. And just allow yourselves that zone to be able to feel comfortable inside this space. And as Belle said, and I've heard before, your account will show you, you just need to know how to read the reports and identify what's coming through.
And ask it in the most lay way. Don't like I had another person the other day go, oh, but I don't know how to ask. Just ask in the words that are actually popping up in your head, because they will, if they're worth their weight in gold, they will understand. And if they don't, then maybe you need a new one.
Hopefully found through Belle's Google ads that she's putting together.
All right. So the other day, Kate volunteered. I saw Kate's name in the list here somewhere, so I think she's listening. I got some figures from Kate just in case she wasn't able to make it. Just to explain this, and we wanted to bring a real life example to today's session. Kate does LinkedIn profile writing for people, and she said to me, can I run ads? So I went through the exercise of figuring that out for her yesterday so that I could present it as an example today. There's one screen I didn't bring up. Give me 1 second. might see. Just want to, because I
Kate,
want
do
to
you
show
wanna
you
pop
where
your
I actually
website
got.
link?
Sorry, go again.
I was just going to say, Kate wants to pop her website link into chat so that everyone can find her too, because she joined us just a little bit after we said pop your link in. And if you haven't already popped your link in, this is networking as well as learning. So we might as well pop our links in and get to know each other.
All right. So Kate tells me that she writes LinkedIn profiles for people. And she's like, can I run Google ads? And I was like, oh, okay. That's a bit of a different one that I haven't heard. Like, I know it's a thing, but I've not tested it out before. So I'm actually showing you now the keyword planner that is in Google Ads. And I want to make this a little bit smaller. Because separate to the maths of it all, I actually need to see if there's enough people who actually want the service. Because it's really niche, like super niche. And so I've typed in LinkedIn consultant, because we worked out yesterday that's what people are looking for, and LinkedIn profile writing, like maybe LinkedIn specialist. Let's add that just for fun. And then Google presents us with a pile of words that it thinks are those things. Now, I don't know if Kate can answer this question for us, but it's not the service. I'm not gonna focus on resumes, because that's a whole other service and it's not what we did this exercise on. But that is something that if I was talking to her again or further, we could look at that as well. But for the purposes of today, we're going to look just at LinkedIn profile writing, to the point where I'm actually going to exclude the word resume. All right, so Google gives us a pile of words that relate to that service and tells us how many people are searching per month and roughly what the cost per click stands to be. Now, these figures are often understated. I will say that in my experience, it often is more expensive. And what we're finding here, if I just sort by the average monthly searches, so I actually don't like that as a, that didn't come up yesterday, which is really interesting that you get different results depending on exactly what you put in. But LinkedIn bio, that is not specific enough for me. That is anyone who wants to know what one is. That's anyone DIYing how to do it. That is so broad that there's only one scenario under which I would test this out, and I'll explain in a minute. But yesterday that didn't show up. Let's pretend it's not there for now. There is 170 people searching for LinkedIn profile writing. They're still not necessarily saying that they want a consultant. And like I said, yesterday we got slightly different results, but a LinkedIn consultant has 30 people a month. This is across Australia. We made an assumption that she was chasing people in Australia. LinkedIn writer, LinkedIn consultant. Now, Google requires there to be at least 30 in a month in order to even trigger an ad. And when you consider, let's pretend that's 100. There was one yesterday that was 170. So even if we said 200, the average click-through rate, again, we're going to use easy maths today, 5%, maybe. Let's pretend it's 10% so my brain doesn't have to hurt. 200 people searching for a particular service, 10% of people clicking on them. It means you're getting 20 clicks. Now, if we go back out here and have a look at the calculator that we did. Oh, hang on. Let me go and find Kate. There we go. And I'll get to this price in a minute. There's not even enough volume for what she does to get me my 63 clicks. And so I can run through these figures really quickly. Kate tells me that when people come to her, they convert. Now that's not off paid ads, so that figure might actually be a little bit lower because these people haven't been stalking her on socials for the last year. They're not word of mouth people. They're a heck of a lot warmer. They tend to convert a lot more highly, but for the purpose of the exercise, we put in 90%. She charges $1,500 and she's a bit like me. Her profit margin is high because it's her sitting in a 3x3 room. So she makes good profit, and that is not considering her wages, obviously. She makes good profit off it. The problem is this on the surface of it, this looks like, yeah, you'd go ahead. Absolutely, you'd go ahead. but I cannot get her 63 clicks because there's just not enough volume. If there's 200 people a month searching for her service and only 5 or 10% are going to click through, can only get her 20 clicks. If we get her 20 clicks, then she's not even going to get one client out of it. So it's not always the cost per click is too much. It's not always you don't have a big enough margin. It's not always you don't convert highly enough. It's that sometimes people are just not searching for your service on Google.
Yeah. And it comes down to what we say in organic marketing too. You've got to be where your audience is looking for you.
That's exactly right.
And if they're not looking for you there, then there's no point.
Now, I skipped over this one because this didn't show up yesterday. And it's still not really big enough. But if I look at a few of these combined, and let's pretend for a minute, if you've got deep pockets or you've got a grant or you just are really beyond determined to give something a whirl, then you can go you can go fishing. Do I recommend it? No. Am I upfront about it probably won't work? You are wasting your time. But if you are desperate to, like, no, desperate's the wrong word. If you are determined to see what happens and to give it a whirl, and you don't mind if you spend your money and you get no results, then you can put in some of these more broad terms and see what happens. I don't recommend that. I don't know too many business. I only have 1 or 2 businesses that go, let's give that a whirl. Like my mowing guy, we did some competitor campaigns and he did not care 1 iota if they didn't convert. Because if they did convert, it was going to be a little golden nugget. But not too many businesses have a bank balance like he does and can sustain that sort of activity, and I wouldn't recommend it. The other thing I have not discussed in this case is that in order to test that out, those clicks are $14.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't make sense. The LinkedIn consultant too, and this is where it was in the calculator, I put it in at $16 because that's literally what it costs. So sadly, I had to say to Kate, you need to go and find your people somewhere else because there's literally not enough of them trying to find you on Google.
Oh, you saved a lot of money. Thanks, Belle.
That's a good point.
And one thing I would say is that, like, people searching for LinkedIn profile rota, my focus is for business owners. So there'd be people who are employees that
oh, we talked about that yesterday. Yeah, totally.
So there'd be even fewer people that are the right fit than that 170. So it would be even less than that.
Yeah, so it's a really good point to raise. I get B2B businesses, like Kate is considered a B2B business in my mind. She's chasing business owners. It's slightly different, but if your audience is another business, we need to work through it together privately because it is very, very difficult to keep the public out. Because the public is who is sitting, like, and we can target employees of large companies and we can, there's a pile of things we can do, which is why we need to assess each case on its own individual merits. But it is, I'll give you an example. I've got a coach now. Coaching tends not to be all that viable for Google because it's massively competitive. It's hugely personal. Even if I send a pile of people, they could go, oh, I don't like the color of Linda's hair, I'm not going with her. Or, she looked at me funny, I'm not going with her. Or, yay, she's amazing. So it's very, very personal choice. The cost per click is massively high. Trying to think of what my point was. Yeah, so I do have one coach. Now, they are different in that they offer executive coaching. It's a bit more specific and that's all they do, but they chasing it in businesses. So they want Woolies and the police and the ambulances and, any big, massive Australian company. And they want to teach executive coaching to the management so that they then go and take that approach with their staff. It's a very specific, different thing. The challenge is that Sally sitting in Melbourne, who's decided to have a career change, is also chasing to be an executive coach. And I can't stop her. This business made a choice around that, but most of us don't have double the budget to be dealing with the B2C who's coming through and chase the B2B who you really want. So we have to assess those ones individually because it is challenging.
So Bel, just a question that I know I get asked when we're working with our clients here. How long should we be running an ad campaign to, like, I know there's training and that sort of stuff, but some of our attendees here wouldn't even know that an ad needs training and time to get it. How long, what sort of the stages when we start something like that?
Yeah, so look, I say to people, I've seen ads work epically well from day one. I've also had a few problem children who literally have taken 6 to 8 weeks to get sorted out. It varies by industry, it varies by a pile of different factors. If you are thinking that you're going to run Google Ads for a month and turn it off, then please don't run them. You're just going to be wasting your money. My standard that I have with people is I say, right, I do have a 12-month contract. I'm not locking you in for 12 months. It just keeps the price for that time. I only ask that you stay for 3 months and let's see how this goes. You know, we've assessed the viability. It should go well, but I'm just asking you to stay. People leave for all sorts of reasons. I had someone needed to buy a house, so, you know, they couldn't afford ads anymore. Okay, no worries, off you toddle. I just say to people, please stay for 3 months so that we get an opportunity to let the system learn and to get your ads. Because I can have all the best experience in the world. Am I the best Google Ads person out there? Probably no, definitely not. Am I the worst? Definitely not. But you don't know how it's going to perform until it's live. So we need 2 or 3 months, see how it's going, iron the kinks out. Separate to that, Google hates being turned off. When my clients go on holidays, like the seasonal people who run a program, and I've had this happen, where I'll give you the example of a school. So schools need to ramp up their from August through to January. That's it. Then their enrollments are sorted for the year. Then they don't need to do it again until next August. It is very, very, very challenging to run a seasonal campaign. Back in the day, 10 years ago, probably no problems. But now that the automated bidding is very much part of Google Ads, it's literally like you're dealing with a human. And then when you turn it off, it's like, I'm going to have a little rest now. And then when you turn it back on, it's like, oh, okay, give me a minute to wake up. I'm just going to take a minute. And then I'm going to have to relearn all the stuff because I've forgotten it. And I'm going to take, so we had one lady and it was a business verification issue last year. It was a psychologist and it was all around we needed to verify her business, but a human has to hold a license. A business can't hold a license. And she ended up suspended for 4 months through a silly thing that wasn't her fault. We spent 4 months trying to get her sorted out. Her ads were turned off during that time. It took another 2.5 to 3 months to get the ball back rolling again.
Yeah.
So it needs to be, like, if you're in a business where you need consistent ongoing leads, that is the most ideal scenario for Google Ads.
Beautiful. Okay. Thank you for joining us today. Have you got any other stories you'd like to tell, or can I throw it open to Q&A right now?
We've got 20 minutes. Let's do questions if
Let's
people,
do
I'd rather
Q&A
answer
open.
real life stuff.
Beautiful, guys. So you're now open for questions. Clive, I just thought for a second there that it might be worthwhile opening up questions for all of us. So if you've got questions about budgeting, you've got questions about marketing, you got questions about ads, and then we can all possibly come in and assist. There is no silly question, guys. The only silly question is the one that you do not ask. Trust me, because if it's not asked, we can't help you find an answer. And if we don't know the answers, we'll send you to someone who does. So I know there's got to be a question or two sitting here.
Linda, while they're thinking about it, there is one other thing that I can probably give the new kids on the block.
Nice.
Separate to Google Ads, if you have not had your conversion tracking set up, so you might have a Google Analytics account. It's commonly called GA4 now.
Yep.
If you go into the area where it says events or key events and there is nothing, then you probably are able to see the website traffic that you have and maybe the country the person's coming from and the pages they're going to. But what you're not measuring is when they actually make the inquiry or click on the telephone number or whatever. If you do nothing else, you have no obligation to do paid ads. I would encourage you to get somebody to set your conversion tracking up for you in Google Analytics, because you might not want it now, but in 6 to 12 months' time, you'll be like, oh, I wonder how many calls or how many contact forms or quote forms I'm getting from my website, and are they coming from social or organic or wherever? If you set that up now, then you'll be able to get that answer.
And it's really important, guys, that you have those stats so that you get to know where things are. There's another handy tool we've been using in the course creation world, which is the Microsoft's Clarity, which also gives you a heat map. And it's really simple to watch it. Yeah, we all got excited when that came out. It's like free and it does this. But we've been using with lots of course creators to see where people are clicking so that we're taking the guesswork out of landing pages. And it's really interesting to see where your traffic goes. But yes, Google Analytics, make sure you've got your Search Console report. Make sure you're looking at the tracking. Know where your traffic's coming from.
It's very probable that you will not be able to set that conversion tracking up for yourself. I have two guys who work for me who do that because it hurts my brain. I understand enough to speak to it and to know to use it and all of those things. Do I want to set up triggers and tags and all of that stuff? No, I don't. So I'd almost say, please don't try and do it yourself. You probably muck it up anyway. Respectfully, it is complex.
But definitely something you should be having a quick look at and making sure that that's all there. Questions, guys. Come on, someone's got to have questions about Google Ads. There's got to be something here. I cannot imagine we do not have a question today.
Bill was very good in providing good information, but yes, there's got to be a question.
Come on, Clive, you've got to have one.
I heard a little voice. No, I heard a voice there.
Yes, I've got several, but other people should jump in.
Kimberly.
Yes. How many people search for the type of work that I do as a Reiki and sound healer? Is there, does Google see a lot of traffic on that?
Let's go find out.
RERHEIKI, right? Oh, no, there we go. No hate.
Yeah.
Kimberly said sound healer as well. That might get a little bit more nichey in that space.
Yeah. How big? Where are you, and how big do you service?
I actually do anywhere in the world. I actually know someone in Australia.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, let's leave it as Australia, but I just wanted to check it wasn't a local business where I physically needed to rock up to have you do your thing. So, for the purposes of today, in Australia, there are on average, now I probably wouldn't, this is an example of like clients see this and they go, oh my God, there's 3,000 people searching for my service. And I'm like, yeah, woo up, woo up. Because sound healer might be the name of a band. It could be the name of an instrument. It might be what the heck is sound healing.
It could be how to be a sound healer.
How to be a sound healer. And so I say to people, if you are not sure what that Google thinks that is, go and Google it. I had a lady years and years ago, she had a website selling dresses and she had these knee-length dresses, and I'm going to sound old when I say this because it's from deportment and grooming days. And she's like, oh, she had this whole page of formal dresses. And I'm like, respectfully, your dresses aren't formal dresses. Your dresses are cocktail dresses, because a cocktail dress ends at your knees and a formal dress goes to the ground. And she's like, oh my God, how did you know that? And I'm like, well, go Google it. Apart from the fact that I knew it from back in the day, you cannot make stuff up. I had one this morning, I will not mention the name of the company. They called their day spa. They were actually, when I dug down, they were massage therapists. Eventually they would like to be a full day spa. They've got a very quirky random name and none of those other names on their website. I'm like, you're not telling Google what you do. You have got to call it what you do, and you've got to choose keywords about what you do. So I probably I'd go doing that homework into that context before I would put sound healer on here. But sound healer near me, they're the people. So it is often better to put lower keyword, like lower volumes and more of them. Here's the therapist, here's the therapy, here's the therapy, here's the treatment, here's a healer. We wouldn't put a competitor in there, but let's just keep it on that page for now. And I would make a very conscious academic decision about whether or not we put this one in. So to answer your question, yes, there are people searching and we are only doing Australia. But what we have to do with you, where's my little, let's copy over Kate's. Give me 1 second. All right. So down the side here, this is going to be really quick in the interest of time. I'm looking at, what is that first one near me? I'm going to say $3.
Yep.
We can add other countries in. You can tell me exactly where you are down the track. Let's pretend it is 5%. I'd need to see your website. I am never rude, but I absolutely tell people that I'm going to be direct when it comes to their website. And there are people who I say, I'm really sorry, but you need to go and speak to one of these 6 people or your own website developer. Go get yourself a new website and then come back. I will be judged if we are not getting conversions. It's actually your website's job to convert. If it looks like my husband created it, then you're not going to get conversions. And in 2 months, you're going to be really cranky with me. So sometimes we send people away, say, go do that, then come back. And I'm happy to influence that process. Or in most cases, it's like, I need you to do these 10 edits to your website, then come back, then we can do ads. So we assess the website first, because if it looks like a preschooler did it, then you're not going to get anywhere. But in your case, if you spend $1,000 on ads, how many conversions do you get out of 10?
Oh, I'm new, so I haven't gotten anybody yet.
So you don't know. Yeah, that's challenging. It probably won't be 90%. Let's put, I don't know, 60%. How much do you charge, or do you have a package? Do people come multiple times?
Yes.
Do you know that
roughly? They're $130 for a package.
And for a package?
Yes, of 4 sessions, which is a great deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, too good.
So what are we? My brain can't work.
I work with lots of healers in that space. That price needs to go up.
Yeah, so 520. Do you know how much profit's involved in your business?
So far, I've only done just a few people, so not a whole lot.
So you're sitting at home. You don't have an office premises. You don't have a shop.
No, I travel to people as part of what I do. I don't want them. I live in DC in the United States.
Yeah.
Traffic is insane, so I go to the people so when they get in, they can relax from the day versus having them come to me, then leave and get stressed again.
Yeah. Look, this is an academic exercise and kind of real. For now, I'm going to put that you have 70% profit. That does not include the money that you would pay yourself as a wage or profit or however you're going to do it. So this is excellent to have a real life on the fly example, nothing like a little bit of pressure, Bill.
Yeah.
If you spent $1,000 on ads, and if you were advertising in Australia, it would approximately cost you $3 a click. You're approximately going to get 330 people clicking through to your website. 5% of them are going to convert. Roughly 16 people will make an inquiry. It's going to cost you $60 to get that lead. We've estimated that you're going to convert 60% of them. So you're going to land with approximately 10 new clients in a month. I feel like that figure there might be lower, but you've told me that your package is worth $520 and we estimate you have approximately 70% profit, which means you have a net profit of $364 over the lifetime of your clients. It's going to cost you $100 to land that client, so you still have $264 profit. Do I want to talk to you after this? Yes, I do.
But before you talk to Belle, talk to Clive or myself, and let's get that price up. Because
let's get this up to $800 or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I did it cheap because in my area, there's not a lot of people that's heard of what I do, and they're very stingy with their money in this general area. So I was like, okay, well, if they can pay to go to a salon and do a physical massage, if I keep my prices comparable to some of those that they go to that I've noticed have a lot of people, I was like, then maybe they'll consider the mind and soul version of your like massage, Now, granted, I can only do a smaller number of people because when using energy, it's draining and exhausting. So I limit how many people I'll do in a day, but like, wow, I was like, it's not going nowhere here. But so I went virtual so I could do things to work with people anywhere in the world. And I studied to do the distance attunements and different things like that. So it's been a challenge. So yeah, if you guys have information or guidance, like I am all for it.
Book a call, Kimberly. We've got to change that first part. You do not keep your prices at what everybody else is doing, unless what everybody else is doing is what you're doing, in which case you're consigning yourself to that level forever. So there's other things that you can do to tidy that up.
Clive, can you put your booking calendar
Yes,
link back in? Because Kimberly most probably needs to book into that one. We did have a hand raised and it's gone down, and that could be my fault because I've been clicking between too many
No,
screens.
there's the VA, the neat VA has their hand up.
Yes, beautiful, fantastic.
Hello. Hi, my name is Tan, and I launched a virtual assistant business that is tailored to small businesses and entrepreneurs. I am wanting to advertise and do Google Ads, but I'm not sure what keywords I should be using, because when I did like a preliminary search of virtual assistant, a lot of it was like more offshore, or especially with AI and stuff like that. It was just a lot of like other information, other stuff, other people.
Yeah,
And
look,
I'm a
you're
live
gonna,
person.
yeah. That's a good example of needing to do really, really good, thorough keyword research.
Okay.
You need to, like, I didn't just type in virtual assistant. I typed in hiring a virtual assistant, and then we would need to see, this is from before, but I excluded. So we have exclusion lists that we can exclude all the things that you are not. So, you're not overseas. Like I'm probably not using, like, you don't sound Filipino. We can get rid of the things that you are not in an attempt to narrow it right down to what it is that you are. But there's a very big but in this category. Unfortunately, have a little look over here. And I know these figures are really small on your screen. Unfortunately, you are in the zone of a very, very competitive, expensive industry. You also have to separate out, like, I don't know enough about you yet to know your model. Like, is it you doing the work, or are you an agency? That will potentially change the keywords as well. But you've got to be prepared. Yeah, you've got to be prepared for $40 clicks. It's going to cost you quite a lot of money. And look, we're looking at Australia at the moment. You need to tell me, I need all the details.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all good. It was me just saying you need all the details.
Yeah, you just need all the finer details. You've seen me do it like with a couple here today. We need to know all those details before yours is not a straightforward answer.
Okay.
Like, need to know where you are, where you're chasing clients from. It's one of those things.
It's US based.
US based, yeah, and you only want clients
Yes.
in the US.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, and the situation gets worse.
Cost per click is getting higher.
But there's a but in here. The US has a bucket load of people in it. And I'm guessing, unless you tell me that you've got $1 million sitting in your back pocket, that your budget's going to be fairly modest in the grand scheme of what's available. The good part about America is that there is a lot more people searching for searches. In Australia, we have 27 million. Not as many people are searching. So this search volume went up when I changed it to America. Sadly, so did, that's Australian dollars. That's because you guys are absolutely smoking it at the moment. And so we need, this is because I'm in an Australian account. It's giving me Australian dollars because I just nearly choked when I saw over $100, but that's sort of 65-ish at the minute, $70. So it's still really expensive, but the benefit of being in America and chasing American people is that there is a pile more people searching. So we can potentially afford to go and not be cheap and nasty, but look for the cheap stuff. Now, it's a whole other exercise for a whole other day, talking about cost per click versus cost per lead. I don't mind paying a little bit more for a cost per click if it converts 3 times better than a crappy keyword. The amount of people who come to me, and this is probably a final good example for today, I have people come to me and their cost per click is 70 cents or $1. And you're like, you've just spent an hour telling us we're not going to get clicks for $1. The reason those people get clicks for 70 cents is that they have massively broad terms that are educational, informational, and are never going to convert. and it probably includes some obscure brand name that happens to get clicks. So they're just going after the bottom of the barrel, or actually the top of the funnel, broadest terms you can possibly think of that is never, ever going to convert. People have been doing Google ads for decades. The reason these prices are high is that every man and his dog's jumped on the bandwagon and knows the keywords that we need to buy in order to generate the actual new clients. So I've had clients come to me, a number in the last year, that have started at 70 cents, and I've warned them, I'm like, your average cost per click is going to go to $8 to $10. But I'm going to get you new people. I'm not going to just get you people who are clicking and then never converting. Yeah. So, yeah, so you can probably afford to go, we can put caps on the amount of money we're willing to spend on a lead or a click and try and get you some of the cheaper ones in amongst these very, very expensive ones.
Wow.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one question from Alex, if we can take that, but that will need to be our final question for today before we wrap up the skills webinar. I've popped into chat, Belle, a link to your contact page where those who are considering this can reach out to you. They can also book discovery calls, and we will have a replay of this webinar up on the business website sometime between now and Friday, so that you can all get access to it and watch the replay later. And for those who didn't make it today, they can jump in as well.
I'd like to encourage you to jump on my homepage or just go to bell.digital. I own a very fancy URL and book a discovery call, because it will ask you some of the questions that I've been going through today, and it'll give me a bit of information about you before we talk to each other. That would be super helpful. All right. Sorry. Is it Grace? No, Alexandra.
Alex. That's okay. A lot of people calling me Grace. I'm okay with it. Belinda, that you just touched on what I wanted to ask, so maybe just a continuation. The healthy ratio or the healthy balance, on average, without specifics, between monthly searches, the competition, and cost per click.
The competition is just a bit of a guide. Sounds to me like your question might have a bit more of an SEO focus than a Google Ads focus. We indicate, let's just use this example because I have it up on my screen. I would be picking the ones that make the most sense for this lady. She's told us she's not Filipino. She's, I don't know, but she's not doing work for real. Let's pretend she's not doing work for real estate agents. So I would exclude these. And it's not actually just about picking one phrase or one word. We would pick a whole pile of them and then test over time which ones work the best. So honestly, I don't even look at the competition.
Okay.
To answer your question.
That's interesting, because I was trying to make sense of all those stats. You know, you can do whatever you like, and sometimes the results are unpredictable if you have no idea what you're really after.
Yeah.
And so that's why I was sort of what the sort of like a sensible approach, how to look at it.
Sensible is not
going into that, before immersing, before seeking for help, before etc. Just sort of the test the water. So like if it's very sort of high competition, maybe to change the keywords to lower the competition, or if it's very low competition, maybe broaden it up to pump it up, then to look at the monthly searches, to have a look what those ones for.
I would encourage you.
So that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I would encourage you to, unless you have a burning passion to run Google Ads, and this is not because I need new clients. I would find somebody who can go through the exercise that I've gone through, and they will be going through it for free for you, to give you a bit of a guide as to whether or not Google Ads could be successful for your business. If you've never done Google Ads before, then please at least go and do some form of basic course. The Google Ads people answer to one thing, and that is they're bored. They are there to make money. The absolute rubbish that I see in Google Ads accounts that have been helped by Google reps is actually criminal. They ring me 4 times a day. I don't take their calls. I've taken about 3 calls in a decade. It is embarrassing, the advice that they give you. They kind of put up with us because they know we help to spend money, but they also know we're there to keep people honest. So respectfully, if you have no clue, if you've never delved into a Google Ads account before, then I would encourage you, actually, unless you have a burning desire to learn it, don't do it for yourself. You're just going to waste a pile of money.
And guys, I don't touch ads. Like, I do not touch ads because it's a different ball game to what I do, and I work in marketing. So if that gives you a bit of an indication as to why we let people specialize in the spaces that they specialize in.
Absolutely. I wouldn't touch it myself, that's for sure. But being quite, being someone who would like to be in control, I would love to learn it, and then I will give it to someone else to do it. So when that person is doing it, I know what they're doing, and I can actually pick and choose and talk their language.
Yeah.
But no, I wouldn't do it myself.
I would work with a good consultant like Belle and like other people that explain what they're doing as they're going through, so that you can actually understand it throughout that zone. Guys, we have to wrap up. We've hit the top of the hour. Belle, thank you so much for joining us today. Please, if you're wanting to understand more about what ads, whether it's worthwhile for you, as Belle said, there's an opportunity for you to be able to book a discovery call on the session, on the process over there. I have popped in a link to our upcoming events, which includes our monthly networking hour that you can register for. It will include more skills webinars. And Clive, I feel like you have a rather large bus coming at you, because I think it's time that you present the numbers you need to know in business webinar again. And we'll be aiming for that one in most probably end of March, early April. In the processes right now, we have 2 skills webinars that I do not have up on the website, but they will hopefully be up in the next couple of days. We have one with the group from TikTok. So TikTok are looking to come in and run a webinar with us in early March. And we also have Meet Edgar joining us to run a webinar throughout that process. So there is some big stuff coming through in the ways that you need to learn, ways you want to learn things. Belle, once again, thank you. She is a member in the BBB group. So, keep finding out, asking questions, and we will process this replay and get it all out to you from there. Belle, once again, thank you again. Clive, would you like to say anything to wrap it up?
Thank you, Belle. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, everybody. Do know your numbers. You don't need to know a lot of numbers. You just need to understand the basic numbers, and everything else will look really comfortable for you.
And Clive will present a webinar on it so that you can actually know them.
And it makes the whole pile happier to know that it's worthwhile sitting at your desk for 40 hours a week, or however long you sit at it.
Absolutely. Thanks again, guys. Have a good one, and we'll see you all soon.